All right, soccer freaks. This is ATL On Fire, the podcast. We're going to be talking all things Atlanta United Football Club. So sit back, buckle up, and enjoy. To kick it off with the U.S. men's national team and the three-game leg in the second period of World Cup qualifying, which certainly had plenty of drama to talk about. And we've got actually 5 Atlanta United games to recap, quite a bit. I think we've got 3 wins and 2 losses in the last 5, if I'm correct.
Yes.
And, you know, we've got the home stretch here that we want to talk about as well, as we hopefully can...
It's getting down to crunch time. Playoff line, people.
Playoff line. Hopefully we've got a healthy Joseph Martinez. We can speculate on his injury a little bit, but also 100 goals from him. Lots of good stuff to talk about.
Wow.
So, Dave, let's jump right into the U.S. men's qualification.
Well, first, don't you want to talk about the wine?
I always get ahead of myself. And, yeah, you've treated us to an awesome wine this evening. It's Friday night. People are going to be downloading this podcast, and they're going to be thinking about this wine tomorrow.
Yeah, it's a Barolo from Cavalli, Italian. Big, old, dry red. What do you think?
Damn, that's got a lot going on.
Yes.
That is bold and really, really good. Thank you, my friend. Yeah, that's a nice way to finally have a little bit of wine in my stream after a long week.
Right, here's to the weekend.
So now I can jump back to the U.S. men's national team. And our first game was against Jamaica.
Correct.
Which actually was positive because our good friend Pepi, who kind of saved the day in the last first period leg. He was kind of a star and came right out of the gates and had a brace in the second half of the game against Jamaica. So what do you recall from that win?
Well, it starts out with a bang, right? I mean, Areola tugged back in the first 90 seconds.
That's right.
I thought I'm gonna get a lot of feedback on Twitter about this, but I thought the call was correct. Yes, he was the last man back, but Areola made a meal out of it with a pretty slight pull. What did you think?
100% agree with you.
Wow. Okay, I thought you were gonna go the other way.
No, yeah, I do. You know, I mean, he clearly got tugged on the shoulder, went down. I also felt like it wasn't a clear and obvious goal scoring by himself type of thing. I felt like the guy who was in the center, who was relatively parallel, could have come over and at least made it difficult on him by the time he was shooting. Mm-hmm. So to me, that's not uncontested at that point in terms of the other guy being able to put some pressure on him.
Wow. Okay, consensus. What about the second last man back decision where the Jamaican defender comes across, clearly gets the man, but also gets some of the ball? I kind of thought, I'm going to get crucified for this too, that it might have been the right call too, because, he got a little bit of the man. He was sort of the last man back, but he got a lot of ball too first. It was much closer to me.
100% agree.
What?
Yeah, it's
okay, Twitter, we're ready for it.
I think, you know, I thought, you know, a lot of the pundits who I listened to were saying, you know, that's not strong refereeing. You got to call it like you would in the 60th minute, the same way you would in the first. I actually think not only did he not ruin the game by pulling a red out, that certainly there's enough people that could, you know, speculate one way or the other. That's, to me, a good reason not to throw a red card in either of those situations. Let the players figure it out on the field. And I know that first one was tough because you know, you really feel like you got rooked in terms of being able to come out and get a goal in the first minute.
Yep.
But at the same time, like I said, I don't think that that was the right call to pull out the red.
Okay. Well, so the thing that strikes me as the moment of the match, if you ever want to see a phenomenal pass. I don't actually think it's on the highlights because I think they cut it off before this. But if you look at the ball by Tyler Adams out of the midfield to start the second goal, he gets the ball somewhere around the middle of the field, and he splits two lines with a ball out wide to just free up the entire game. There were multiple people in there. He saw a gap. I mean, it was absolutely genius. And so, I mean, the thing that strikes me, and we can talk a little bit about his partner, McKinney, who I think was also, Weston McKinney was also phenomenal. But the partnership between Tyler Adams and Weston McKinney is the best we have ever had, period, in the United States. It is the first time that we have a chance to have creative players like Gio Reyna and Pulisic and all of these other guys who we have to have a chance to do their creative stuff and know that we're not going to get just purely counterattacked on the way back. And to me, between the two of them, makes it the most talented U.S. roster ever. How's that? Right out of the bat.
It's hard to disagree that it's the most talented roster we've ever had. I think that's why at this point in the World Cup qualification, even though we're in a good place right now, I think people are still a little disappointed at the number of wins that we don't have, or the losses that we conceded both to Panama, which we'll talk about here in a second, and then in the previous leg, who did
Honduras?
No, we beat Honduras.
We came back on
it was
that
El
game.
Salvador.
Oh, El Salvador, yeah, it was horrible.
We didn't get the win. So I feel like with the amount of talent that we have, like those are games that I am just disappointed that, and those aren't good teams. And, I realize that there is a level of experience, particularly when you're on the road in El Salvador and or Panama, that make it an X factor. And I've never been in that situation. Mm-hmm. It must be real. It's the only thing I can say. I mean, players,
it's real, all right.
It's real, but but when you're that much better, I feel like you've got to find a way. And I guess that's where it's exciting 4 years from now that these guys have had that experience. And hopefully 4 years from now, when we go through qualifying, that's the level of just pounding that I want to see when we go down to, these countries and have such talented players.
Let me list something for you. Okay. Tyler Adams, Leipzig, Champions League team in Germany. Weston McKinney, Juventus, Champions League team in Italy. Sergio Dest, Champions League team, Barcelona in Spain. Zach Steffen, Man City, Champions League team in England. Brendan Aronson, Salzburg, Champions League team in Austria. Pulisic, Chelsea, Champions League team in England. Gio Reyna, Champions League team in Dortmund. Even you have Musa at Valencia, not a Champions League team, but a La Liga. De La Fuente at Marseille. Sargent at Norwich. Yedlin at Galatasaray. Hoppe at Mallorca, right? John Brooks at Wolfsburg, and even Anthony Robinson at Champions side Fulham. I mean, and you know who the oldest player is in that group?
Oh, boy, who is it?
I believe, well, I mean, I'm not really included. I actually included Yedlin and Brooks, but amongst the most of them, the oldest player is Weston McKinney at 23.
Yeah. And that's that. I mean,
it's crazy.
And that's what Greg Berhalter is.
Adams is 22. Dest is like 21. Aronson is 20. Pulisic is 21. Reyna is 19. Musa is 19. De La Fuente is 18. I mean,
yeah, it is a young squad. And I heard a rumor the other day that Wolfsburg might be interested in Pepi.
Yeah,
there's potentially a signing there. So.
Yeah,
we shall see.
Yeah, are you kidding me? The other thing I will say from the last comment on the Jamaica game is Miles Robinson and Walker Zimmerman, the all MLS pairing,
right?
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
it's really interesting that all of the super young talent, the Gio Reyners, Pulisic, etc., are in Europe, and the really sophisticated defending, slightly bit older, still in MLS.
Yeah.
Right.
I just am curious how some of these players are going to hold up when it's against really good teams. I mean, we look great, even dominating Costa Rica once we went down.
Sure.
But in these games where we do look good, some of these teams just are not that good that we're playing.
Well, let's just talk about then game 2, and we look terrible. USA versus Panama.
Right. Well, we also
game 1 down. By the way, that's one game. How many minutes are we in to the podcast? How many minutes are we into the podcast?
That's a good question. I got to put my reader.
Let's see how we can make it.
We're like 10 minutes in.
7 games to go. Let's go.
So let's go. I mean, Jamaica wanted to make you pull your hair out that game because, you wonder why there's so many changes.
Oh, Panama, you mean?
Panama. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Panama. You wonder why Berhalter made so many changes because, you want some cohesion from one game to the next. And I realized we had Pulisic and Reyna out. You want to rest some legs. And winning your home games in World Cup qualifying is everything. So making sure you're coming back with the right squad for Costa Rica, I get that. But 7 changes seemed very, very extreme.
Yeah.
And even our good friend George Bello, which maybe we didn't have too many options. I'm just surprised to see that much pressure being put on a player that doesn't have that much national team experience in a game like Panama that really did matter, in my opinion, because it put so much more pressure on us when we came back to Costa Rica at home after we had lost it. And it also messes with the player's confidence like that. George Bello must know he did not have a good game. I mean, and along with most every other player on the squad. But
in fairness, his hands from the Bello situation was a little bit forced because Anthony Robinson, because he was at Fulham, England has a block on Panama as a country. So he couldn't travel. Zach Steffen couldn't travel either. The 2 English players. Pulisic wouldn't have been able to travel.
Is that because they're being nice to the club teams by not?
Yeah, because then they would have to undergo 2 weeks of quarantine and they would miss several matches, which makes the clubs very angry, and then they don't want to release them the next time, and you get this whole argument. Right. But, here's my thing, right? Honduras, not in the previous round of 3, right? Tyler Adams starts at right back, right? I don't say this pretty often, but WTF, right? Like, the guy is absolutely brilliant. The heart and soul of our midfield. He starts him at right back. That's a catastrophe. At halftime, he realizes the mistake. He moves him back into center midfield. And for those of you who don't recall, we just ran over him in the second half after the first half was one of the worst ever, right? And we came back to win, right? So Tyler Adams plays brilliantly in Jamaica, against Jamaica at home, right? We go to Panama, right? We have some limitations about whatever. What happens to Tyler Adams?
He gets moved out of a position he's good at and put into a different one?
Yeah, a position that he can't help us in called the bench.
Yeah.
He wasn't in the starting lineup. He didn't play. Right? How does Tyler Adams not start that game? Now, Berhalter said something later about, he had a little bit of injuries. He's coming back from injuries. I don't care. He is the heart and soul of our team. He's fit. He's healthy.
Yeah, if he's on the bench,
he's 22 years old. That means
he can play. So you put him in.
And he could play.
Yeah.
He didn't get any injury. He was brilliant in Jamaica. You're going on the road in CONCACAF, and the heart and soul of your team is on the bench? Are you kidding me, Berhalter?
So you're saying if the rotations at minimum should have been 6, and
yes,
there you go.
I mean, even if you're going to tinker a fair amount and try to keep people fresh, you tinker around the heart and soul of the team. You would also argue Miles Robinson, heart and soul of the defense, has been the best defender for the U.S.
Completely.
Where was he?
He was on the bench. And right, I agree. Like especially, Atlanta United's next game is tomorrow, and that between all these games, these guys are young. They can handle that.
Well, but even if they're not and you have to rest them, you're like, look, you're going on the road in CONCACAF. You got to try to win all the games. You might say, look, we come home, we could maybe make a change like that. But mostly what you do is you stay with your center back and your center midfield, and you tinker around that. And even like the most notorious tinkers, you know, like the Benitezes of the world, they don't tinker with their center back and their defensive center midfield.
Right. And you know who would have headed it the right direction when that corner kick came in? Is Miles Robinson, where Zardes is like, no, I'll go ahead and just flick that on into the back post because that's what I'm used to doing on the other side of the field.
I think he was trying to score, didn't it look like
it sure as hell did, but can we move on from the Panama game? It's going to just frustrate me.
Yeah, 2 subs at half, 3 more subs in the 64th minute. Okay, and that's the last thing I want to talk about in this game. Okay, no matter how bad it goes, and it was going badly, right? You cannot, in any professional sense, you cannot make your 5th sub in the 64th minute.
Yeah.
Right? Could you imagine if somebody, which almost happened, gets a major injury and you have to play the last 30 minutes, 25 minutes with a man down? He'd have gotten crucified. Have you ever seen a coach use their last sub in the 64th minute, Mikey Dobbs?
Well, even when there was 3 back in the day, which was before the pandemic, there was only 3 subs. Mm-hmm. That would have been a mistake. But when you have 5 subs to do that, that's even more silly.
Even worse, because you can change a lot with 4 subs, and then you have to keep the 5th sub for the last, right? I mean, what? Gonna go with it again. WTF, Mikey Dobbs, Berhalter.
But Dave, we switched places. I came over to your house the other night to watch the 3rd of the 2nd series of qualifiers against Costa Rica, Pura Vida, but they were here in the United States at the Columbus Crew Stadium, right?
Yes, it was at Columbus, correct. The brand new stadium, which looks nice.
And, you turn on the TV and it's beautiful outside, nice kind of crisp evening. 30 seconds in, I kind of start paying attention. Ball bounces around. It gets crossed. All of a sudden, side net. What just happened? A minute and 30 seconds in, we're down 1-0.
Yep.
That is not how you want to
start. I'm going to go with yes on that, Mikey Dobbs.
What goes wrong in the preparation? I mean, it was a little fluky all around. But there has to be a readiness there for...
Well, the U.S. has come out flat, to be honest, in at least 5 of the 6 games. And, that's no way to live. I speak from experience. My Man United team keeps doing the same thing under Ole Gunnar. Start out slow, has all the firepower in the world to come back, but it's not a way to live.
Right. So it was... tense moments right out of the gates, even though
it was a good goal though.
Yeah. I mean, it was, it was a little unlucky, certainly the way that I went back and looked at the replay, the way it kind of pinged around and the guy on the left side had it kind of come to him.
Yeah.
And he put a nice kind of lobbing cross that
beautiful cross.
The goalkeeper really didn't have a right to go after.
Correct.
And, I would say the person that hit it kind of got a little lucky because there was another Costa Rican player in front of Zach Steffen that kind of shielded and rightfully confused him.
Yep.
Because had he made a play touching the ball, he could have kicked it near post.
Right.
But he just kind of olayed it, and it ended up going to the far post. It's you could say Zach Steffen could have done better, but after watching it, I can understand why he was a little bit flat-footed because of where the other Costa Rican player was when it came across.
I'm going to disagree with you, Mikey Dobbs.
Okay.
I think that the goalkeeping was shambolic. Zach Steffen
on that one play though.
That one play.
Okay.
Because Zach Steffen is an international goalkeeper. That ball is not hit hard at all. He totally mishit it. He sort of shanked it back. It was bounced down off the ground and it was going pretty slowly.
But the first person it came to was another Costa Rican player.
Yes, the Costa Rican player was there, and Zach Steffen stayed as if the guy was going to knock it. But as a goalkeeper, you've got to stop the ball going straight in, right? You have to stay at home long enough to be able to stop the ball that's going straight in. That's like goalkeeping 101, right? And then if somebody gets it, onto it right in front of you, that's not your fault, right? Like somebody's got to defend that. You can't defend that. Like there's no way to, right? So to me, that looked like Zach Steffen looked like a guy who's been sitting on the bench for Man City for a long time, and I think Zach Steffen in full flight, like playing every day, realizes that guy's not going to touch it, and he just steps over and catches it, really.
Yeah, fair point. And, plenty of other moments in that game where you could see Zach Steffen is not getting minutes just in the way that he's reading the game.
Yeah, it's sad because Zach Steffen looks to me like maybe one of the best U.S. goalkeepers ever.
Yeah.
He's phenomenally talented, and what an absolutely atrocious decision to go to Man City, right? I mean, you're playing behind Ederson, who's arguably the best goalkeeper in the world.
And Matt Turner looks phenomenal, in my opinion.
Yes. As a goalkeeper, yes. Is one weakness, and I'm rarely in agreement necessarily with the national media, but I happen to agree with them that his play out of the back with the ball at his feet lacks, and he gets us into trouble sometimes. So that's the knock on him, that he can't play with the ball at his feet.
And, I think he's pretty...
But goalkeeping has been terrific.
Yeah, goalkeeping's terrific. And, guys who aren't good at that per se, as long as they learn how to adopt over time, not to make the crucial mistake, and get it. Even like Brad Guzan, I don't know. Would you say Brad Guzan is good with his feet?
Well, Brad Guzan has two good feet. He can play a ball with his left and right foot, which is pretty unique for a goalkeeper. And although, I know I'll preempt your argument, I said he tends to launch the ball wide and sometimes out of bounds. First of all, I would argue that he does that on purpose, which is if you're going to make a mistake, put it out of bounds. You don't get countered right in. And I think that's okay.
Yeah.
But the other thing about him is he will play a ball 40, 50 yards up with either his left or right foot. And that's a huge advantage.
Yeah. Well,
and Zach Steffen is the same way, can play ball with either foot. Turner is not.
Yeah. So back to the Costa Rica game.
Yep.
We get scored on a minute 30, and then the U.S. is on the front foot for...
Yeah, understatement.
Understatement for certainly, like, just talk about the first half, the entire first half. Like, Costa Rica wasn't even in the game. You just felt it coming. Did we score in the first half? I can't remember.
Yes, Serginho Dest, left foot rocket.
Couldn't remember if that was just
Are
after
you
halftime.
freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
He just put his foot right through it. Right. I mean, his quickness and his ability in space, he beats the defender at least 9 times out of 10.
Because that was close to like the 45th minute, right?
Yeah, it was close to half. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it was great build up. It came from the other side of the field, like someone kind of crossed it, and it went a little too long. And then I can't remember who played it right into Serginho Dest.
And it might have been Musa, but yeah.
Musa, and then Weston McKennie pulls a guy kind of across and in front of him, which opens up a little slot. He takes a look up and says, "There's the upper 90," and hit the upper 90.
He just put his foot right through it. And what's remarkable about that, folks, that's Serginho Dest, the right back, who everybody says is maybe a little too much right-footed. That's his left foot, people. He's not. He plays sometimes on the left back for Barcelona. I mean, talk about a guy who's truly two-footed, right? He can cross with both feet. He can shoot with both feet. That's his weak foot, people.
And I was reading an article that I forget what minute he came off, but he's evidently kind of a unique dude. That when he came off, he was like high-fiving the fans in the stand.
He went off on the far side, which you haven't seen since Little League.
Yeah. Right? And he kind of did because he had the goal and an assist, right? He did a goal and assist, and I kind of like that.
Yeah, he got subbed off. He went off the far side, and then he walked around the entire stadium high-fiving people in the front row. Now, the knock on him is defending. Which has been a little bit questionable at times, but the other knock on him is that maybe he's a little injury prone. So we'll see. That worries me. Yeah, but as long as he's playing, he's good.
Yeah, his ankle
class.
did, in the slow motion, it looked like his ankle did get hit pretty good there. So I get it. Then we come out in the second half, don't quite look as good. Costa Rica still looking like their average age is 35. So
they look like us out at Silverbacks.
They sure as hell did. Like,
I mean, no offense to us, but
Miles Robinson passes it to their forward, who then is so slow he can't do anything with it. And Miles is like, all right, I'll just run back and stop you.
That was Brian Ruiz, wasn't it?
Yeah,
who's been around. Yeah. He was an MLS star 10 years ago.
Yeah. And so had it gone to any other player on the Costa Rican team, maybe, or on any other team.
He just looked like, please, somebody catch me from behind and take me out of my pain as quickly as possible.
Yeah. So
he can still finish. I understand why they still have him in the game, but he can 35 yards from goal. He's never going to get there.
And we honestly got so there's one lucky example, right? Where they could have scored easily. Then we also fouled a guy in the box. It should have been a penalty kick, and that didn't get called.
Mm-hmm. The penalty kick that we should have conceded, according to my notes.
Yeah.
Are we agreeing again on the penalty kick? We're agreeing again.
Like the defender jumps and gets his legs in between the ball and the striker. And as the striker, who is right about to kick the ball, almost simultaneously, you could say that the striker kicked the back of the ankle of the guy lunging, or you could say that the guy lunging hit his foot, right, which is a clear penalty.
Now, was it Richards, the new kid, the really young kid who started his first ever international game? Or was it Robinson coming in from the side? I can't remember.
It must have been Richards.
I think it was Richards.
It wasn't. I know it wasn't Robinson.
It was one of those two, yeah.
So you could argue this one, that the player who's defending has the right to put his body between the ball and the striker. And if the striker happens to kick the defender's ankle, then that's the striker's fault. So that's where this controversy is, on a split second of, if you really wanted to get nasty with VAR, like, you would have to slow it down to, 60 frames per second, zoom in and say, okay, was the defender's foot clearly in front of the offensive's foot, off of the attacker's foot, and the attacker's foot happened to hit the back? Because that's legal, right? You're allowed to put your body within playing distance.
He sort of blocked him first, and then the second time of offering cleared it out,
So, the guy Shock on ESPN FC is where I got my theory on this, and he actually got me thinking about that. It's particularly as somebody who likes to score goals, I'd be pissed if I ended up hitting the back of an ankle of a player who put his foot. But if you got his ankle there first and it's in playing distance to the ball, then maybe it's not a penalty kick.
Yeah, I thought it was a penalty kick.
I thought so too, but I'm asking, by definition, what is the rule there? Do you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
Like, I think it should have been a penalty kick as well.
I think it's subject to interpretation, but right. Yeah. So now, one of the things you should comment on, right? So CONCACAF does not have VAR, and the reason for that is because a lot of the stadiums, a la Jamaica, probably Honduras, El Salvador, maybe, don't have the capabilities of having it. So the CONCACAF decided that if you can't have it in those places because of the technical limitations, that it's not fair to have it anywhere at all. How do you feel about that?
I think it's the biggest crock of shit that I've ever heard. We're talking about companies that have to survive during the pandemic, that have to learn Zoom and how to do virtual meetings and figure out technology that can allow people to talk face to face. You mean to tell me in a budget where World Cup qualification means billions of dollars, that you can't figure out how to put in a lightweight system to where people can even do this remotely? Are you kidding me? No way I buy it. If you get a team from Georgia Tech to give me a budgeted solution as a weekend project, you got VAR in every Central American country, period, the end.
That's not where I thought you were going.
Was that my rant? I think it was my rant.
Yeah, I like it. I actually agree with that. I thought you were going to say that they should still have it. So what? So I completely agree with you, Mikey Dobbs. That
This is getting kind of weird.
I know that they should have had VAR. But here's where I disagree with you, or maybe I don't disagree. So the question is, all right, so let's put aside for a second the shambolicness of not being able to put in VAR at those stadiums. If they can't, do you think they should allow it in like the U.S. and Mexico? Should CONCACAF allow those games to have VAR when the other ones don't?
It's a great question. And that's the thing. Like the way
it's a yes or no question, Mikey Dobbs.
Okay. If it's yes or no, I'm going to go with yes.
Okay.
The reason I say that is we're now moving to that being the standard for professional soccer. So if it's available and that's how referees are trained to officiate the game, then you shouldn't mess it up for how they officiate. The officials are currently being trained to gauge the game fairly, because that's all their job is to officiate it as fairly as possible. If you go back to an archaic way, which is now in the rear view mirror, I don't necessarily think that's even fair for the referees.
Okay. I'm going to disagree with you.
All right. Good.
So I think out of fairness, CONCACAF got it right that if you can't have it in all the stadiums, it's really weird to have a different set of rules. And, because what can happen and what would happen is you have a call that's overturned by VAR correctly, maybe in one game that should have been overturned, to help El Salvador, that ends up being the difference between them qualifying or not. And they feel really hard done by because, it was allowed here and not there. So I think fairness, they got that call right, even though I actually, to be honest with you, hadn't really thought that, why do they even, how is it that they can't have VAR?
Yeah, I know. That's the whole crux of it to me.
So in the end, I agree with you.
All right, well, round and round we go. Anything to talk about that? What are your expectations for this next qualification series, which is kind of the third leg of a 4-period series of the qualifiers, right?
Yeah, we only have 2 games in the next one. We start out with Mexico in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
So, Alan Colehep, if you're going to be there, let us know. You can call into the podcast. Yeah, I guess one question that we have, that we haven't talked about is Pepi or no Pepi, right? So do you think he's the real deal or not? So he scored 3 goals so far. He scored 2 in the win against Jamaica.
Yeah, if I'm in Vegas, I'm betting on Pepi. He seems to have he's got a nose for goal. He had a very poor game in Costa Rica.
Yeah.
You and I spoke about it. He did not put himself in the right positions, but I think that happens sometimes to strikers, particularly after, he had a nice little hot streak there. I see things from him, though, that even in that game where he didn't get alignment with crosses that were coming in, that, even like someone like Josh Sargent's been disappointing me on. Like, I'd rather see Pepi in there than anyone else at this point. That's my answer. You?
I'm not convinced yet. I thought he was really good when he scored the couple goals. The finishing I thought might have been really much better. But it concerned me in the Costa Rica game where we were so on the front foot. We're getting really, really good services into the box. And he didn't come close to any of those balls.
That's where I just say it's any given Sunday.
Okay. And he's young.
But
the question is, so there's two answers to this question. One, is Pepi great long term? And then 2, is he great in this qualifying cycle at this age?
I think he's great long term. Mm-hmm. I honestly do. Everything is speculation at this point. Sure. He's so young, but I just have a gut feeling with what I'm seeing. There's something a little bit different about his play that I can't put my finger on that I like.
Okay.
And the other guy I like that is Hoppy.
Yep.
I believe in Hoppy too, kind of in a similar, young, youthful way where Hoppy puts people on their heels.
Mm-hmm. He dribbles at folks.
He dribbles at folks. He makes people make a decision, and we need more of that in our squad.
I agree.
So